Okay, so would you like to introduce yourself with your pronouns, what course you study, your disability, and any other information you'd like to disclose?
Great. So hi, my name is Ming and I use they, them pronouns, and I am studying speech and language studies. I'm going into my final year. My disability is more mental health based. So I have different diagnoses. So I have bipolar 1, borderline personality, and complex PTSD. So they kind of affect me in different ways. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you've talked a lot, obviously, just there about your disability, and one of the things that the co-ability kind of wants to explore is just how your experience with your disability affects your college life, like in a
Yeah.
positive way and also a negative way. Like, what's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, definitely it has a big impact in different ways. In college, a lot of the times, like I would feel the effect when I'm like in a low and more like depressed. I find it really hard to concentrate, and it takes me longer to study, and I usually just feel very dissociated and zoned out. So just really tired as well. So just even making it out to college is like a big strain, and I'm also on placement, so definitely it's a lot more pressure because you have to perform all the time and you're in charge of like clients and like stuff like that. So just again, just kind of your concentration goes a little bit, and just trying to stay focused a lot is a huge strain. And yeah, I think in terms of like PTSD, just certain things I would I found in my modules like certain topics to be a bit like triggering, and usually I'm like, oh, that's fine, but then after a week I'm like, oh my god, that was a lot to take.
Mm,
um I think one of the good things in college, like I think in Trinity, like I've gotten amazing support from the counseling services, and I was doing group there as well, and they've really given me such support. And also I think just even being able to open up to my lectures, and certain lectures like know that I'm struggling with it, it helps a lot, so that I know that they'll like get behind me, because even in second year I had to take a year out for mental health, and they were all very supportive. So yeah, there's like struggles, but like
yeah.
there's support, so it's good.
Yeah, like it's kind of like college is such a, it can be positive and negative. It depends what's going on, but it's good that you also just kind of use the resources that were around. Because the disability service really is great for that kind of stuff. And obviously, like on the topic of like pride and disability, like intersectionality obviously is a huge thing, just how like those kind of like marginalized groups intersect with each other, and like those things kind of affect one another that people might not actually be aware of. So like for you personally, what were your struggles about being queer and then also being disabled, and how does that intersect each other and like impact your life in college in Trinity?
Yeah, I think I also forgot to say at the beginning, I identify as non-binary, and I would say I'm queer, but I'm probably pansexual, like sexuality wise. And yeah, I think I definitely subtle discrimination, and also like a race thing as well. From I'm always like, if someone Asian, is because they're aware of like my disability, and so it's kind of you're more vulnerable, I think, in a way in society. And also a lot of the times, I get extremely passionate when I talk about like LGBT rights, and even just like with people I know. One of the things that kind of I feel that intersection is like, with borderline personality, I find it hard to kind of control my emotions. So sometimes I can go from 0 to 100, and trying to kind of speak about like mental health, LGBTQ rights, and I can find myself going like getting really angry,
Yeah.
and kind of having to like rein myself back, because I'm like, people can't engage with this, and you really have to just step back and like giving people space. That's what like helps. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Like, do you think that you have a lot of those conversations in Trinity with people and how those kind of intersect and like how it affects you, or is it kind of more outside of college environment that happens?
I think it's a bit of both. Personally, I find a lot more like probably outside of college, like with family and, but even like within lectures and stuff. I definitely know like from speaking to people that like uh, a lot of us find like people who identify the same as me and have similar struggles. They find that, you know, one of the things is on placement. I think it's hard because when I'm on placement, people just use she, her pronouns, and I kind of like and I've brought it up to my placement practice educators, and they kind of say, you know, to them, you just have to be whoever they see you as, and you can't make a big deal about that. And I totally understand, because a lot of the times the clients we're dealing with, they have cognitive difficulties and stuff like that. But also just kind of you kind of be more aware of the norms, you know, like the societal norms, and you're like, and you know, part of me, I'm like, I feel like I should be vocal about it all the time, but again, it's like picking your battles.
Yeah.
And also just, you know, I'm very open. I'm like, oh yeah, my girlfriend, or like, I'm just very okay with like telling people things about like whether it's my disability or where I am on the spectrum, like the gender spectrum and stuff like that. But I think when you're working amongst other speech and language therapists, maybe in a setting where everyone's a bit older, you kind of do feel a bit of like judgment sometimes. So I think it's like, you know, where do you pick your fights? And it's kind of hard because you're on placement and they're the ones that are grading you. So I think that's where it's a bit like of a struggle.
That's
Yeah.
interesting that you kind of have to, you know, not like kind of not push buttons of other people who have a lot of power.
Yeah.
So definitely that's something that like should change, you know, in terms of like them being
Yeah.
aware of like these kind of things, whether it be like disability related or like LGBT, or then that being intersectional. So yeah, hopefully that like this video can inform people about that, you know, because I
Yeah.
didn't know that personally. Like I wouldn't have thought about that because I don't do placement. So that's
That's
very
right. Yeah.
interesting. But then we kind of like talked about like culture there a lot, like outside of Trinity, which would be in placement. What do you think should change in terms of culture within Trinity in order to facilitate this intersection in life?
I think definitely just educating, like really like making lectures, like people all aware, like even just now, like there are more and more people asking about people's pronouns and things like that. Just shows that they're aware and they're open to learning about it. And it's just such a like, when I hear it, I'm like, oh, like I suddenly feel like a lot more free in that space, because I am aware that the person in charge is like open to like learning about people in that way. And I think, yeah, definitely in my course, it's really, really female dominated. So there's literally only 4 like cis male students like in the whole 4 years. So a lot of the times, you know, the lecturers are very prone to saying like, oh, hey girls and ladies and stuff. And I think um just kind of be more aware. And I think definitely on different aspects, like one of the things with mental health is like, it just I'm always aware of people kind of using words that, like, you know, when people are saying like, oh, like that gives me such PTSD. Like I've had it like last year where someone's like, I don't want to use a calculator for like this test because it gives me such PTSD. And like me and
Yeah.
my friend we're just like so shocked. And
Like
the
kind of
lecturer,
micro aggressive or just
yeah,
misuse of language can actually
yeah,
be very like it can have a wider effect than people actually think.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think those things, that's just general. And the lecturer, you know, didn't even pick up on it. And you know, as a lecturer, especially someone who's like lecturing in mental health, it's like they should be the ones who should like stand as an example and kind of make a point of it. So yeah, I think it's just so many things. You're always aware of people who aren't as aware using things, and you feel affected, but you also feel bad if someone else is there and
Mm.
they hear it as well and they get affected by it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and actually I was on exchange in Boston College, and it's considered like pretty conservative college. But I was studying sociology, and they have a very, very like liberal, um, very like free kind of sociology department. So they have like really amazing people who have done such amazing work in terms of like this kind of stuff, like on intersectionality, like teaching classes. But one thing I noticed that like between my classes and other people's classes was that they used pronouns to introduce themselves and like to sign off on emails. And I was just like,
Oh wow.
whoa, I need to bring this into Trinity, or like push this, because it makes other people, like you just said, more comfortable in that space. Like just that kind of one kind of part, like that just one sentence can just
Yeah.
make such a difference to how people feel in a certain space. So yeah, I really hope that's something that
Definitely.
the co-op ability has been trying to kind of push, is just that people are more aware of pronouns and how that can affect people. But also, like you said, just like microaggressive, like things that people might not realize are microaggressive, like saying, oh, that gives me PTSD, or a lot of people say that I'm so OCD. Like people need to be more aware
Oh
of,
god,
like,
yeah,
yeah, people need to be more aware of
yeah.
that.
I'm always like,
um
sometimes I'm like, let me just tell you, and like I get into it, but
yeah,
sometimes I'm like, no, for my own mental health, I need to
I
just
need to like
step
chill right
back.
now and just take a step back. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think what the biggest thing from this conversation that we're both talking about here is that, like, the whole point of intersectionality is that, like, people make mistakes, and it's okay to make a mistake, as long as that you are fully aware that you've made that mistake.
yeah,
You're gonna improve on that mistake and
yeah,
not do it again. And also just like listening to people, because that's a huge thing too. It's just like, letting people speak where they need to speak,
yeah,
and you need to take a step back in certain situations. So hopefully this
yeah.
video will make people more aware of
Totally.
that and put more intersectionality into their
Yeah,
life and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah. And I think definitely like as well, not being afraid to ask questions, because I love when people ask me like, what does that mean? Like, why, like, what is non-binary? And I think a lot of people are just scared because they feel like they should know about it, and they feel like because they don't know, they don't want to offend you. So I think, yeah, like I wish people like who don't know are more open to like learning about it and asking about it. Yeah, and I think you're so right. It's a lot of times like just not being afraid to like make mistakes, but like at least you're trying. That's really
Yeah,
important. Yeah,
definitely. I also think, going off of that point, that like people can be curious, but I think when you want to ask questions, they have to be genuine
oh
questions and
yeah,
come from a genuine curiosity place where you want to educate yourself, but you should
yeah.
also, as well, take that step
Yeah,
and
and be
educate
careful
yourself.
what you say. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
you should educate
be
yourself too.
sensitive, but like yeah, be sensitive,
Yeah,
but like yeah, I think pick the right moments, and I think yeah, a lot
definitely.
of it just like learning for everyone. Like everyone's always learning, like
Yeah.
myself as well included.
Well, I'm really glad to speak to you today, and it's been a really
Thank
nice
you.
interview, and I hope that people learned something from it. I hope that you learned something from it, and I've learned a lot. So, just want to say thanks.
Not at all. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for doing it. I think it's great what you guys are doing, so I'm really supportive of it. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.